Welcome to It Starts With Whiskey, the podcast where every conversation begins with a sip of whiskey and takes us on a journey through the diverse landscapes of life. I'm Ryan.
I'm Thee.
And I'm JoJo.
Together we'll embark on an adventure filled with spirited discussions fueled by our love for whiskey and ignited by our passion for exploring the world around us.
And of course, no conversation is off limits. From thought-provoking debates to lighthearted banter, expect a healthy dose of controversy as we navigate through the complexities of life.
So grab your favorite glass, pour yourself a dram, and join us on It Starts With Whiskey, where every episode is an adventure waiting to unfold.
Welcome to Episode 4, Artificially Aged. We're excited for our topic today to discuss our intrigue and our desire to peel back the onion of AI, including a whiskey created with the assistance of AI.
But first, our disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any whiskey brand, distillery, or affiliated company. The content discussed is intended for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice or an endorsement of products discussed.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. So how you guys doing? What's been new since the last time we got together?
Travel. More travel.
What's going on, Ryan? Where you been traveling?
Well, this week I spent Tuesday through Thursday at the ModX Material Handling and Supply Chain Show in Atlanta, Georgia. We had a lot of new technologies, robotics, some more AI, as we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But a couple of quick things we got to do on Wednesday. Nick Saban, legendary college coach at Alabama, was our keynote speaker in the morning, and he talked about some leadership stuff and, you know, the changing world of college football, which was very interesting getting his take. And the day before, he was speaking to Congress about one of the committees about NIL and sports and the direction that it's heading with that. So,
oh, wow.
That was kind of an interesting take.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would.
And then that evening, we got to see Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live. He was the, they have industry night where they always have a guest comedian or actor or something come in and, you know, speak to the group that buys tickets. That one you had to buy tickets for. But, oh my God, that dude is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
As all get out.
Yeah. I haven't really watched Saturday Night Live, but when you sent the text, I was like, I know that name. And I did have to Google it. And you want to know something fun that I found? Him and his co-writer, co-producer, Michael
Che.
Yeah. They're hosting the St. Patrick's Day Eve, which is tomorrow on our actual calendar. We're recording on Friday, and tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day Eve. But yeah, they're doing a partnership with Jameson for Jameson whiskey for a St. Patrick's Day Eve celebration. I was like, "Whoa,
fun!"
Oh my
cool.
God! Let me tell you. So the first half, he spoke for about a half hour, 35 minutes, and the first 10 minutes maybe, I was like, "Okay, this is funny." You know, he's making fun of the show and stuff. Content turned quickly. Like, he started telling a joke about him being in the shower and his little son reaching up and tugging on his nail and that. And it was like, oh man. And then some F-bombs were flying. And I was like looking at faces because, you know, you get in those business events and it's like, how far can somebody push it? Mm-hmm. You know,
yeah.
He took it all the way there.
Oh,
It was great. I loved it. So, and then big news this morning. I got to have breakfast or coffee with Mac Pedraza from the Grand Rapids Rise.
Woohoo, let's go Rise.
So that was kind of cool. She's
Yeah.
going to speak at our alumni event coming up in April. So we were just kind of doing some pre-interview stuff, and
How fun.
that was cool. And then what about you, Joe?
Oh, I've been busy. I haven't had to do anything fun. I flew out to Ontario, California, did an audit, and then hurried up and got on a plane and went to Phoenix, did an audit, came home, did laundry, packed, went to Jackson, Michigan, then hopped a plane to go to Atlanta, Georgia. And
we missed each other.
We did. We were in Atlanta together, and I didn't get to see her pretty face.
It is a big city. I mean,
I know, but she said no. I invited her, and she said,
when the girl says no, Ryan.
I know.
No means no.
I was just swamped. So I definitely had been putting in hours just working. So just had dinner, didn't do anything wicked fun. So, but yeah. What about you, Thee?
Well, I did not travel. Shocking. I know.
We just replay that clip every week.
Every week.
Every 2 weeks.
Week. But it's not all about travel. You know, I did finish up my class last weekend.
Oh, sound effects.
Ryan, yes.
I'm on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I got one more class to go. I graduate in mid-May.
Congratulations.
So, yeah. And then Sarah, of course, has been cooking and up to some mad crazy. If you follow her on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about. It is her love language. I'm telling you.
I know I had some of that love language when I came over. It was good.
You can tell when a chef, like Ryan, you cook a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like as a chef, like, or cook or home cook or whatever you would call yourself, when you're preparing food and people are eating your food, like you just like kind of sit there and wait for them to like have some sort of facial expression, or maybe they go, that's my love language back to Sarah when I love something, is I'm just the whole way through the meal. So
yeah, me and my partner, her love language is cooking. She loves to make meals, and she loves to just, there's something about it for them. They just love it. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then you guys forgot we went to the Rise game.
Again.
Or were you just leaving it for me because I didn't travel?
That was under your name, so I thought
I did lay claim to it.
You did. You could tell all about it.
That's right. We hit another game last weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
We won.
Yeah,
we did win.
Broke the losing streak. I am so happy for the Rise.
Yeah, it was one thing I talked to Mac about today, was that East Coast, West Coast travel, and they were doing 2-a-day practices. So their Grand Rapids 7 a.m. practices when they were on the West Coast, really was a
5.
Yeah, everything was kind of screwed up for them.
I have to say about Mac, like one thing I've noticed is she brings like the energy back onto the floor when she comes out. So while she may not start for the team, I consider her like just as important as the starters, because she is such an energetic player. She's also a very talented player, so I'm not taking away from that, but the energy that she brings when she goes out there, it just kind of, as a fan, reinvigorates them.
Yeah, and I told her that, and we talked some about that too, but we can keep that for another show and maybe get her on someday, hopefully.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
So what do we got going on this weekend? This is a busy weekend.
Oh, this is a busy weekend. What do we got, Joe?
Well, tomorrow we're going to Irish on Ionia.
Yeah. Downtown Grand Rapids
closes
one of the big streets downtown, and people, some music set up, and good time. Couple tents and some whiskey and beer and
music.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I've never been.
Yeah, me neither.
First time.
Ryan's taking us for the first time. The throuple is going out. He's going with us? Are
Eve's
we a
going.
quadruple?
Yeah.
Quadruple?
Yeah, she's there to keep me in line again. The last couple times has been a little rough, but I'm a few years older now, so I don't think I can handle that anymore.
You're going to be with us. It's going to be, But we do have to be good, because Thea and I are going to a, what do you call it? Musical. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to a musical that night.
That's what you think.
That's what we think.
No, so I see on the notes here we have a Joe the Experience story.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
from the Rise
Joe the
game.
Experience from the Rise game. So, I coined Joe's nickname here, so I got to continue on with, Joe and I are standing in line at the concession, is that a concession to buy fan gear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we were picking up some Rise fan gear, and next thing I know, Joe turns around and starts talking to a stranger again. She's talking to this lady and her daughter, and she's just, chatting it up and having a good time, the Joe thing, and the next thing I know, Joe's encouraging her to listen to our podcast, which is awesome. Thank you to all of you who are listening to our podcast, by the way. Yeah,
thank you.
We appreciate all of you that are turning out and supporting us. But
I've had
yeah,
so many text messages from people that I haven't talked to in years that it's good. So if
Yeah.
nothing else, it's kind of rekindling old friendships.
that is
It's
very
fun.
cool. Yeah,
Sorry,
we
go ahead.
appreciate it. No, I mean, it's just, you got to realize when you take Jo out in public that she's just gonna randomly make friends along the way, and it's like the next thing you know, Joe's almost like, I don't know, she might be going over there for Thanksgiving. But yeah, no, that was a fun interaction. And to the mother and daughter, if you are listening, thanks for checking us out, and hopefully you enjoyed meeting Jo that day. And
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's time for our whiskey tasting.
Yay.
So since today's main discussion is on AI and around, some of the work aspects of it and some whiskey aspects, Thea did some research on ways to relate our topic to whiskey and came up with a Swedish whiskey company that was generated. The whiskey was generated with the assistance of AI. So Thea, tell us a little bit about what you found and what we're about to taste here.
yeah, that's right, Ryan. So I think it was a combination of kind of like just checking out like whiskey news to get ready for our podcast, and then also trying to tie some things to AI. So it was awesome to come across this. There's a Swedish distillery named Mackmyra. There we go. They're award-winning. I had not heard of them until I found this article, so I'm excited to try something from a new distiller. And they launched in 2021 a whiskey called Intelligens, which is the first whiskey in the world created using artificial intelligence. So let me just tell you a little bit more. This is from an article in Forbes magazine. Mackmyra partnered with a Finnish technology company called Fourkind to develop an AI system that augments and automates some of the tasks of the distillery master blender, who we all know is responsible for flavor and product development. Jo told us a few weeks ago that she had met a master blender before from
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels. There we go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're important to their distilleries, and Mackmyra used it to sift through massive amounts of data to find new combinations to create this whiskey. And Ryan's going to take us into like a little bit of an explanation later on in the episode here. So he'll tell you more about how AI uses data, but basically they used Microsoft Azure and Machine Learning Studio as far as the systems, and the data that they use, which is really interesting. Existing whiskey recipes from Mackmyra, cask information, because each cask gives whiskey a different flavor, which is something I'm really starting to get in tune with what that difference is. They also put in data related to ratings from consumers, sales data, and evaluations from whiskey experts. So anyway, they analyzed 70 million combinations. Then they had their master blender provide feedback so that the system could learn even more. And in the end, she selected a certain recipe. It happens to be recipe number 36 as the final pick. And I was able to order a bottle of Intelligens 2.0, which we have here with us today. And before we get into what the notes looked like.
And this is a single malt.
That's right. It is a single malt. I did not look up the information on a single malt. Ryan, do you know?
We talked about that in the last episode.
I forgot.
Malted barley. So theirs is, I remember from the video that we had watched on YouTube about it, which we'll share on our social media.
Yep.
I think she said it's made just like making beer. So it was water, single malt, yeast, and sugar, maybe? I don't remember the fourth ingredient. I'm terrible.
It's simple. It's relatively simple, but 70 million combinations. Like, this is an amazing.
Right. So they had to have been sugar because that's what feeds the yeast.
That's true.
Okay. So we'll go with that. And then.
All right. So before we read the information from the website about the whiskey, let's see what our initial tastes were.
It's got a very strong smell. I'm a little afraid to try it. I bet I'm going to cough.
Yeah.
I might.
I mean, it smells very Scotch.
Yeah.
Yes.
It smells like Scotch.
It does.
And it does have a stronger scent to it. I do get kind of a caramely but it does have more of an alcohol smell on
Yeah.
top.
It does.
I can see where you're saying, but very slight caramel. I can smell the like a baby sweetness, but
Whoa.
it's powered.
That
you
was
go?
not
Did you
what
go?
I was expecting. It has a very smoky flavor for a single malt.
Wow.
I mean, it's good. I think
It
AI
is
needs
smoky.
to go back
It's
to
wicked
the
smoky.
Wow.
couple data points need adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
All
it's
right.
good, but it's not what I anticipated.
So is this like typical? Okay. The mouthfeel is strong for me, but I am not getting any burn in my throat.
No, me
No.
neither.
That's interesting.
You know, it to me, it has a High West campfire. I don't think you guys have you tried that?
No, but as soon as you said campfire, I'm like, yep, that's what it tastes like when you do your swallow, right? You, in the back of your throat, you can
Yeah,
taste the campfire.
yeah.
Wow. Breathe. Breathe after you take a swallow. Then you really taste some campfire. This is I don't know if I'm happy with AI's output here, but keep in mind it still had to be passed by a master distiller.
Well, Ryan's
Sorry,
being a
I'm
giver and putting
trying
ice.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the ice, and I'm dropping it all over the place.
So we're gonna try it with ice, but right
All
now,
right. Yeah. So while you guys are reading that, I'm gonna go from Mackmyra's website. They call it an AI02 is the second of 5 AI recipes and is an elegant Swedish single malt whiskey with notes of vanilla fudge and citrus,
I get neither of those.
me either. Lies.
slightly spicy pepper, and tones of oak casks, which is nicely embedded in smoky peat and juniper.
I get
think
that.
peat
The
is really
peat
big.
Is what?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
It's a
why
peat.
I'm not a fan.
Peat's big in Irish whiskey too.
Mm-hmm.
So, a full-bodied whiskey that is light amber to the eye with sweet fruits and oaky tones, followed by a discreet smoky tail in the finish. Honestly, their description is actually,
Well, all except for I tasted no fruity notes of
And vanilla.
green pear and honey.
I've got vanilla. Actually, I forgot to mention that. I'm getting it.
Are you?
Yep.
But like we've said before, our palates are all
All
different.
different.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's not repulsive. We'll finish this bottle at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I would not order it again.
I would not either. But of course we would finish it.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
Green pear, it even mentions in the like specific tasting notes on the nose. Okay, so sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So on the nose, fruity tones of green pear and honey blended together with vanilla and butterscotch.
I'm not getting
Sometimes
any
I wonder if they just use words to use the words.
I'm not getting any of that.
Well,
No.
and I think, I was reading earlier, some of this green pear flavor, honey blend, all that, they're quantifying that or putting it to different chemical compounds when they're doing the AI data model. So it's not, we're adding butterscotch and stuff. It's okay, these type of oaks produce this type of flavor profile.
Interesting.
Or these molecules are created. So
Right.
I don't know. I think they need to update their data model unless this is exactly what they were going for.
I did just take my first sip because I was reading while you guys were kind of tasting yours with the cube in it, and I do like it better. It's opened back up again. It's
Less smoky.
Yeah.
and I do not have a I could not find the proof on the bottle nor on the website. I don't know if that's I don't know if it's
A
a
Swedish
Swedish
thing?
thing or not. It was like a 48% ABV.
So where did you order this from that we were able to get it here in?
Lovescotch.com.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's the only
Okay.
place I could find it. And
But very, very cool. Thanks for
Yeah.
doing the research
Yeah,
on that
it was
and,
interesting.
and taking part in this. This is fun.
there'll be some we like and some we don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the reach around. I'm gonna lie.
That's coming.
I
Let's
know.
get through this next one and
Yes,
then
sir.
we'll get back to it. So back to AI, and there's a few things, and I've been doing research because in industry right now, I mean, it's the buzzword for the day.
Mine
and
too. Yep.
And I know there are a lot of people we were talking about prior to the show that are terrified of it and what it's doing. It's, they're afraid it's going to eliminate jobs. They're afraid it's going to take over the world. And then we'll get into it later too, but there are definitely ethics questions around this.
Yeah.
So at the show we were at, every session that we went to started with, let's level set. And, level set was the first 20 minutes of every 40-minute.
So you came back to us more set than when you left, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I may not be as level as I was before. But so we wanted to just take a couple minutes, and we watched the 10-minute version of the Google training session. And I'm going to try to break that down a little more. So it's just a couple minutes, but before we get into our other conversation. So just by definition from Oxford, AI is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. AI is a field of study that encompasses machine learning and deep learning. So there are a lot of buzzwords, around AI, but, without having visual, I got to explain this the best that I can. So you have artificial intelligence, which is like a field of study, right? So physics, for example, biology.
Okay. Psychology.
Artificial intelligence is a field of study.
Yeah.
Within that, you have machine learning. And then within machine learning, you have deep learning, and you have discriminative and generative AI, and then you have large language model type things or field. So what is machine learning? So it is a branch of AI and computer sciences that focuses on the using of data algorithms to use input data to train a model that trained model to make predictions on data it hasn't seen. So you're starting out with small data and training models. It's usually at that level, it's pretty basic stuff.
Okay.
So in general, machine learning algorithms are used to make predictions or classifications of things. But based on some input data, which can be labeled or unlabeled, which is a whole nother conversation, your algorithm will produce an estimate about a pattern in the data. So that's at the most simplistic form. But then you get into deep learning. And with deep learning, that's a subset of machine learning that uses multi-layered neural networks called deep neural networks or artificial neural networks.
You ever seen one of those images where like it shows an image of the brain and it shows all the like synapses of your brain firing when something happens in your brain? One visual for me that happened when I watched this video was they said like, when considering deep learning, like this is what deep learning looks like, and they showed this brain going like all over the place, and then it kind of morphed into like a graph version of what the data looks like in the deep learning state. And for me, that was like, oh, so many things happen in the brain that we don't even know about. So that's what deep learning kind of hit for me.
Yeah, and just like with the brain, the more layers of these neural networks that you have and more complexity, the more more useful they are, I think. So then within deep learning, you have discriminative. That learns from relationships between labels of data points. And you can classify those data points, like, for instance, a dog and a cat. So if you have a bunch of pictures of dogs and cats, you label them. If you say, at that point, you submit a picture of a dog, it would know that that's a dog at that point. I mean, this is really simplifying things down.
Okay. Right.
And we'll predict with the picture that, oh, yes, this would be a dog because you have 4 ears, you have 4 paws, whatever. Now, with generative, this is what everybody's using. I mean, ChatGPT,
OpenAI, Microsoft. Is it
Bing?
Bard?
Or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this learns about patterns in the training data. and based on a text input, will generate something completely new based on what you request. And there's still a lot of improvements that they're working on. And I, follow Midjourney, or I subscribe to Midjourney and Leonardo.ai, a couple of the video, or not video, but the picture-based ones.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of work left. I mean, you get people with 5 fingers, but what it's doing is analyzing similar things and creating new content.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Which is where they're still working on tweaking a lot of that stuff.
It's interesting. I was part of the Bard beta.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, I got a message and it said, "Do you want to be a part of this beta?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's see what this is." It started talking about AI, and it was like, I didn't know how to use it. I mean, they gave it to us to test out and ask questions, and I was using it like a Google search engine, to be honest with you. I had no idea. But I think, people started using it. It probably started getting feedback, because I think user feedback goes into AI, from what I understand, as part of
right,
like how to respond to users. So
Yep.
It's interesting. Generative AI, it's out there, and there's so much to it.
So one quick thing here, and I'll wrap this part up. So detecting generative AI, it is not generative AI if it's a number classification, such as, is this spam? Is it not spam? Those are all just using, the algorithms, not generating new stuff, but based on the data inputs, it's
Google
flagging
search.
that. Google search.
Right.
It is generative AI if it is natural language, image, or audio creation. Exactly.
I think of it, for me, it really clicks when I think generative AI generates new things. That's the click for me.
I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas machine learning, deep learning, that's all taking data sets and predicting future outcomes.
Yeah.
Or I guess deep learning would be predicting.
That's interesting.
Big data has been a huge thing. I don't even know how many years big data has been around, but if you look up if you come across like information about it, big data was overwhelming. Big data was like, there's so much data out there. Like, how do we take it and how do we analyze it? And so, to be honest, from the HR, human resources, from recruitment standpoints and business operations, like data analysts became a huge, I don't know, 10 years ago, were there even data analyst positions? There were probably a few.
Not like they are now.
But now that the big data is available and it's more, the computers and systems have caught up to be able to handle all of that data, or at least a good chunk of it, like the need to be able to analyze it is so much bigger. So it's all affecting creating jobs, changing jobs, adding to business all around.
So I had an example, and I did get this on YouTube. So I want to give credit to the guy that did this video, but he put it into pretty easy terms for like the large language model, and they're pre-trained, like we said, with very large data sets and then fine-tuned for specific purposes. So companies can use these, large models from Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and then you plug your data in, because you don't have, as a small business or medium-sized company, you don't have the money to generate these from scratch.
Right.
But the example he gave for a large language model I thought was really cool. So you say you have a dog and you're training your dog. You can train him to sit, or her, or it, whatever you want to call it, to sit, to come, lay down, or stay, so you take that input from a large pre-trained model, and now you break it down that I'm training a police dog. So now you have smaller data sets that's specific to police dogs, or a guide dog, or a hunting dog.
Wow.
And then you can take that large data model, plug in your specific stuff to get the outputs.
Fine-tune your results.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
For sure. But like fine-tuned, so pre-trained models, text classification, question answering, document summarization, text generation, but then you fine tune it for your retail purpose or finance or healthcare, entertainment. You know, Netflix is constantly looking at what we watch, what everybody else watches, and then gives you your recommendations on what you want next. And they're not the only ones. I mean, Amazon, Google, Facebook,
all of them.
Every single company out there is doing this.
That's what I mean. Do we regret
Not going to Bourbon Fest over Whiskey Fest?
Because we took a risk this year.
We did.
Because we needed a
changed it up.
break.
Did we?
Is it a regret?
I just thought somebody was being cheap. Because I wanted to go to Bourbon Fest. I told people I was coming to Bourbon Fest.
You go back to that episode where we were trying to decide whether we were
We
going to
never
go, and I
decided.
wanted to go. So it's not being cheap. I just wasn't going to pay for VIP if you wanted to.
So, some learnings I had this week from ModX. Before we get into that, Joe, full disclaimer here, Joe had to go take a conference call.
That's right.
Oh, dear Lord. And I left him alone.
She said it'll be a half hour. We're 45 minutes in, and Athena and I had a couple of cocktails.
Just a
Not
couple?
even cocktails. It was just,
Straight up.
we finished all the stuff we had, so...
Listen, the sun is shining, and there is a patch of sun that we found on Ryan's back porch, and we went there.
We were talking about show episodes.
We are. Let's go back.
No, that's what Athena and I were talking about.
Yeah.
So then we finished the Glen Grant that we had for the reach around. But
Joe
that's
wasn't-
gone.
yeah.
Joe wasn't here.
But Joe's got a glass.
So, and then Athena and I were kind of discussing on the deck that it's Irish Week or
That's
St.
right.
Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's
And we
Day.
kind of screwed that up.
Yeah.
So
we forgot to incorporate some Irish whiskey.
for our reach around today, Athena, can
Let's
you
reach.
pass us some Redbreast
Here
12?
you go. Red breast for all.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Salud.
This
Lante,
12-year.
whatever they say.
It smells good. Smooth.
Yeah, it is.
This
nice
is
on
one
the
of my
nose.
favorite non-bourbon whiskeys.
Oh, it smells good.
Smells sweet.
And it tastes good.
Oh, my gosh. It's good.
It's a lot more mild than the bourbon. I mean, even the single malt, I think this kind of like a little more mellow.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really smooth.
I'm getting more fruit in this flavor than I was in that first one that indicated. And we didn't pull up the
Reviews.
tasting notes or any reviews or anything on this red breast, but
I actually get butterscotch on this one.
it is sweet. Yeah. Caramely butterscotch.
So we also decided, based on some of my previous Irish whiskey experiences, that we're going to get a bottle of Middleton Very Rare, and we're going to have to split it. Otherwise, we would all be in deep shit if we didn't.
Except for me.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
I know. Shut up.
Okay. So, some learnings that I had this week from the ModX show that I wanted to throw back, getting back to our subject for the
That's
day.
right.
Okay.
I don't think AI is here and is going to replace a lot of people, personally. I think it's a lot faster at making decisions based on good data, algorithms, stuff like that. And I think it's going to help us be more efficient. And as long as the model data is accurate, and that's going to help things out a little bit.
I think you're still going to need a human touch to review, and there's always that. I remember seeing that movie Stealth, where they built the plane that flew itself. It was like a,
We have those now. They're called drones.
No, but it was like a stealth plane, and it was supposed to replace all the fighter pilots. But I don't think that you can remove the human touch from everything, right? So I really think that AI is just going to help us, like what you said, to be more efficient. But somebody's going to have to come in and kind of decipher everything and direct it where it needs to go, in my opinion.
Well, and you're still going to need humans to provide the data, do the programming for the AI algorithms and stuff like that.
Ensure there's no bias in the system.
Biased. Ooh,
Right.
that's a good one.
That is a good one.
It is. I mean, if you think about it, AI is just a step along this timeline. If you go back to the start of industrialism, in the beginning of machine implementation, and then, efficiency of those machines, and then different machines. And I mean, we've been going through a socioeconomic impact for years, and AI is, in my view, and the research that I did and the way that I see it, the biggest constriction to AI is really people's fear of data and privacy, right? Like their information being released. And I mean, rightly to be so, which is why organizations have to be much more protective of their data. They have to be protective of their, employees' data. They have to be protective of how they're using the data. They have to, really like be responsible users of AI. But honestly, like I don't see AI replacing a lot of jobs either. I see it expanding the amount of data that can be analyzed, expanding the predictive, right? Like I don't know a lot about predictive analysis, but I know AI is going to take that and I feel that AI is going to take that and expand it in great ways. If you think about the whiskey, for example.
Correct.
Once they get the data modeling down.
Yeah.
I think it's going to allow us to work smarter, not harder.
There you go.
And one thing that I've seen and noticed is especially with like robotics, because in the warehousing and industry like we're in, we see a lot of robotics, and even then I think it's at the point where some of these mundane jobs that people are doing or have been doing in the past traditionally, it's hard to find a workforce after COVID that wants to do these repetitive things over 100%. And over again. So you're still going to have people working possibly side by side with robotics and different, new technologies like that. But I honestly don't see any way that these things are coming to take over the world and things like that. So
Terminator.
But yeah, the other thing that I did, I sat through a couple of sessions at ModX, and one of the things, that I did learn about AI, and again, keep in mind, we've had a few cocktails, so we want feedback. If we're wrong, please give us comments on our podcast comments section and stuff like that.
Please.
But is like closed loop systems are a lot more in tune with the AI stuff. So it's good with, an HR system. It's good with a manufacturing system. But the AI technology is not so great at reaching outside of that. So like if you have an open loop system where it's like, I want to take the whole process of everything we do into account, it probably could do it, but it's a lot more efficient if it's focused on algorithms for HR, focused on algorithms for manufacturing, stuff like that. Now I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No, because I can connect that.
Yep.
The data that you're saying specifically for like HR systems, you're saying like as long as we control the loop of data that the AI system is using to process, we can reduce, potentially maybe even eliminate the bias that's used in that HR system, for example, for recruitment. If we can remove the biases that are involved with data, for example, facial recognition,
correct,
background research, or that kind of information on an individual, then we can control it. Whereas if it had free range of the entire, open loop system, like, which means it can grab anything it wants to. It has
now
the
we're back to
potential.
generative.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making that sound reasonable.
I'm here for you, Rye Guy.
I know. So, Joe.
Yes.
How does AI and whiskey relate or correlate to each other? Back to our, pour and drink of the day.
Correct. So, I talked about this in the first episode that I'm in quality and food safety. So quality control is near and dear to my heart. So when I think about AI and in whiskey, you can use it in the making process. You can use the processes for quality control by analyzing, various factors like, say, temperature, humidity, chemical composition. AI can give you the algorithms that we've been talking about to ensure that we maintain that consistency and quality in that final product. I'm wondering, you talked about predictive analytics, just a few minutes ago. I mean, I know you said I'm not really, it's not your jam, but do you know how you could use it for being predictive?
Well, with regards to whiskey, I mean, like I said, I'm the noob here, but it still astounds me that there's all of these varieties of mash bills, or the way that the cask is used, or what kind of cask is used, or how long it's aged, and all of these things become data. And all of these things as data can then be used to predict in predictive analytics, like how the whiskey, what future trends they can expect to see from a company, how to optimize their production processes. It can help distilleries make decisions about everything from ingredient sourcing. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get to get into that too much with my Mackmyra research, but it continues to astound me that there was 70 million data sets that went into 70 million different pieces of data that were analyzed. That is just not humanly possible. So there's predictive analysis from this data that can help any company,
correct,
a distillery or otherwise, to predict things related to their organization.
So from a flavor profiling, with whiskey tasting being highly subjective, everybody, you've seen that with us. It's,
Joe didn't like the and to be honest, it wasn't my favorite. The Mackmyra, it was okay, but Joe didn't like it. So tasting is important.
Yeah, I won't finish it.
It's true. It's over there on the counter.
Yes. No.
You're not a finisher. Okay. But by analyzing chemical compositions and sensory data, there are a lot of things going into flavor profiling that, Athena and I were talking about that earlier. You start multiplying all of those out, from barrel to that impacts flavor, to the mash blend or mash bill that impacts it. You can quickly start getting millions of different combinations that could impact that. Mm-hmm. Computers are fast at that. Yeah. As long as you get the data in right, it's going to spit out, based on the algorithms, what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But people, going back to our previous conversation, somebody still has to analyze all that, because they're not going to just trust a computer to generate whatever it is to spit out and say, let's go with it, without tasting it. And, there's still that human factor that's involved that has to take place.
Yeah. Ryan and I were also talking about dumbing this stuff way down. I know many of us have stared at a spreadsheet filled with data and just thought about how do I use this? How do I tell a story with all of these, let's just use an Excel spreadsheet as an example, all of these line items and these columns, and it's data. And then you think about that first time you learned how to create a VLOOKUP or some other formula in Excel that helped you take this mush of information and create it into something usable, something that you can benefit from.
Now it's easy.
Yeah.
Now you just take your Excel file. That's the dumbest
version of this that I can think of and relate to personally.
Yeah, but some of this goes back to what you were saying earlier on learning how to use the prompts, right? So I uploaded a spreadsheet for work and was like, give me the, I want a VLOOKUP on this and that, blah, blah, blah. put it in there, and it gave me a result. So I uploaded an Excel file and got an output. Like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, but that's not exactly what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to tweak it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think learning how to do the prompting, that's like a pretty good educational process that I need to go through and would help me utilize some of this technology a little better.
That's right.
Yeah, and this conversation is leading me right into what I wanted to bring up is, when you start talking about analyzing the market and the trends and the preferences of consumers in the competitor data, it can be used to help different distilleries make strategic decisions about, say, pricing, marketing, product development. This technology, this AI technology, can give whiskey producers a competitive advantage, an edge almost in a very saturated market.
They need to reach out to us, though, so we can give them some dollar amount recommendations, because I think there are so many new, and this was on another podcast I was listening to, that they're coming out and they are like, if we price this at above the $79 mark, we're going to get a lot of people thinking it's great stuff and they're going to want to buy it. There's technology now that you can read other people's reviews or whatever before I spend $79. So, I have already mentioned before, Butcher's Union is my favorite place in Grand Rapids. And I love the fact that I can go down there and try something, and they have a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Before I go spend $100
or
more on a drink or a bottle.
That's
and
right.
I've found so many that I'm good $16, $20 to taste, and I just saved $80 by not going there.
That just happened last week.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what. Didn't we try some ryes or something?
I tried a Colonel Rye, and I was like, oh my God, I love Colonel. So I'm going to try the Colonel Rye because I love ryes. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah.
This is awful.
Yeah, that was not a favorite.
And it was still, what, $18
Yeah,
for the
it was
pour?
wicked expensive. And I'm like...
But they only get 2 bottles a year.
Yeah. So that was
That
really
might be
good.
a good... might be good that they only get 2 bottles a year.
Yeah.
I think we need to ask ChatGPT which whiskey we should try next time we're sitting up at the bar.
I can do that before we head out.
ChatGPT, analyze the menu at Butcher's Union and tell me, according to my taste profile, which whiskey will I like? Ooh, let's try it.
While you're doing that, I want to bring up, I know this is later, but we're running out of time. So
We are.
One of the things that I have had people talk to me about regarding AI is the privacy and security stuff. So let me just tell you about my experience yesterday. So we are checking into Delta, and in Atlanta, they have facial recognition opt-in.
Mm-hmm.
The best freaking thing
in the world. On
in
the planet.
world. On top, even better than TSA PreCheck.
And clear.
Right? And clear.
And in the combo, right? No.
Okay, so this is like in the same line that you're going through for TSA, or you got to go to a separate line?
So I think if you're, not 100%, but I think if you're TSA PreCheck, you have the option to opt in to facial recognition.
Yes, you do.
In Atlanta and a couple other airports. I don't know what they are. So we go to check in, and even in TSA in Atlanta, the line was like a freaking mile long.
Oh, I've been there.
It was a monster this morning, too.
Atlanta is a monster.
And then it says, oh, you opted in for facial recognition here? It's like, hell yeah, we did. So we walked over there, and even checking in at the Delta counter, we could go over to facial recognition and scans your face. I mean, you did have to show your ID there because you're checking a bag. So there's still some validation, but we got to skip all the other lines. Did that, got checked in, and then we go through TSA. They had a separate line for facial recognition, and we went through that. Now, mind you, TSA is supposed to be fast. That line was probably still 20 minutes at TSA in Atlanta.
Agreed.
At least.
So we went through the facial recognition line.
Yeah.
10 people. I'm like,
You kidding me?
seriously?
Yeah.
Didn't have to show an ID. Didn't have to take my
Nope.
ticket out. Nothing.
Just get in front of the camera and
Yeah.
boom.
And I don't think people understand. Now I'm getting loud and whiskey's kicking in.
It is.
They already have your information.
They do.
I mean, you have a passport. They've already scanned it in.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said earlier, it's like 90% of the, not that much, but 80%
Right.
of the spend in AI is related to government identification.
Mm-hmm.
So they already have that. Why in the world would
Would
you
you
not
use it?
just utilize it?
I know. They
while
got
you're
your
there?
eyes. They got your stuff. I mean, just use it.
So I'm going to back up a day. So one of our suppliers, and I won't call them out here, but they're working
Yes, you
on
will.
facial identification on mobile devices
Mm-hmm.
for workforce.
Hmm.
So what they're doing is encoding the vectors from the facial recognition software into a QR code or 2D barcode
Mm-hmm.
with a PIN number.
Interesting.
So no longer are they keeping the facial data on their servers, anything like that. It's all encoded into the vector information on the barcode.
Wow.
So when operators go to log in, they can scan the 2D barcode, which then has the vector info for their face.
Yep.
Look at the camera, scan it, and then they're logged in.
Unbelievable.
I thought that was
That's super
the coolest
cool.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, so that gets rid of a lot of the security information
Yep.
being held on a server, either in the cloud or
Yep. And the risk
locally
of somebody taking it.
on-prem. Right.
No, that's really super cool.
So I thought that was really cool. So once I know that that's open to the public, I'll tell who it is, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But
Break the
that's
bones
really
there.
cool. That is super cool.
That is cool. You know, I've used, you know, as you're speaking, Ryan, like it's reminding me, not necessarily of how I've seen it out in the world, but how I've used AI to benefit myself. So there's a lot of hubbub in the academic world about whether using ChatGPT is potentially like dangerous for schools. Well, I'll tell you, as somebody who's been an online learner for years, I started my bachelor's degree back in 2004, I believe I finished it.
yourself.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I
you
am.
did.
So I actually finished school at an online university. And even then, when you submitted a paper, there was a Turnitin is the name now. But back then, there was a program that would review your paper and
Yep.
check for plagiarism.
Yep.
So as you look today, those programs still exist. My school that I'm going to right now uses that Turnitin program. And even before ChatGPT was big in the last year or two and really highly, you know, marketed and stuff like that, I mean, they always had us submit first to this, make sure you got a passing score and weren't plagiarizing before you could submit your work as an assignment. And I was still thinking like, you know, like, let me test this ChatGPT thing because I'm all about testing things out, right? So how can I use this without plagiarizing? So similarly to what we talked about, Ryan, you mentioned you use it for like business outlines or business proposals or business contracts and so on. I mean, I've used it to create outlines to help me write papers. I've even asked it to create a paper, and then it puts it in a way that I can flow through the paper. Now, do I copy and paste what ChatGPT wrote? No. I'm not.
That's good because they can check that.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but it still helps like put my thoughts into some sort of order that I can use to, you know, create or populate an assignment.
And in full disclosure, we put our ideas into ChatGPT for our podcast episodes
We do.
Yep.
and help it. It helps
just-
us outline things.
Yep. The baseline.
Just faster. Baseline.
It's way faster than us because
I mean, and then we're just editing and removing.
y'all would be
and
waiting a month if we, at least.
If it could just generate a website for ontherocks.com, we would be moving a little faster
Yes,
on our
yes.
website.
Let's
But we're
see if
going to get it
Let's
there.
work on that prompt.
Yeah, let's work on it. So I think we're getting close to the end here.
Yep.
We're wrapping up.
Yep.
What are we going to do for next week?
Ooh.
Let's give a little teaser.
Yeah, that is a teaser.
Yeah, what are we going to do?
You know, so we've got an exciting weekend coming up next week, and we're going to be
Yes, we
going
do.
to
Bourbon? No, Whiskey Fest.
Bourbon. No. See, that's how the excitement is starting to come up. So
Whiskey Fest, yes.
we are going to be going to Whiskey Fest for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect that our next episode will contain some sort of conversation about Whiskey Fest.
And we did VIP.
Yes,
We
we
only
did.
roll that way.
Boom, boom, boom.
You'd think we had money.
Yeah, but this was like half the price of the other of
Says-
Bourbon Fest.
Says your cheap friend.
We love you.
Hey, I'll chip in on that bottle Ryan wants to buy.
No.
I'm not that cheap.
We're getting it. Middleton, very rare.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're
we
getting
are.
it.
We also have some feelers out there to see if we can bring a special guest to you to discuss some interesting stories that they encounter in their profession. So that is to be determined whether or not we can make that happen. But we will
We're
be at
hoping.
least going over, and Ryan may need to cut this whole part out.
Yeah, we probably will. But as we're wrapping up, you can check us out on social media.
Please
it
do.
starts with Whiskey on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, listen to us on all streaming platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, and Google. And don't forget to subscribe. Please subscribe and
right.
leave us comments.
Yeah,
on
please
there.
leave us comments.
It really helps
Um,
us out. It doesn't cost you a penny. Just hit that subscribe button. Leave us comments.
And leave us ideas on the comments.
That's
if
right.
you want to hear something crazy or want to be a guest, we're happy. And the motorcycles are out in the streets.
On that note,
Let's get it going, and we'll talk to you next week on It Starts With Whiskey.